Okay, what is the goal of the anger video series? The peaceful resolution of the anger. I mean, how can I go about doing it? What is the real goal? How can I say it in real plain language now that I've gone through 3 videos? Okay, here's the goal. The goal is to keep the outside forces that trigger anger in their proper place, to keep that merge with the quality and state of being angry from happening. In part 3, I went over how anger works, that once it is triggered by an outside force, it becomes the quality and state of being angry. And since the quality and state of being is literally you become angry once it has been triggered by the outside force. The reason it gets triggered in the first place is because it was already lying dormant inside of you as a predisposition. It was a pre-learned disposition that was dormant in a personality disorder. So when the outside force triggers it, it becomes the state and quality of being angry. And whatever the state and quality is of your consciousness, that literally is you from head to toe. So you literally become angry. You become the anger, and the anger kind of becomes you. So it doesn't just stop there, though. The scary part is the way anger functions, since it is a consciousness, and it is a state and quality of being. What it does is it transcends itself, and in the case of anger, what it does is it points out towards the outside force that triggers it rather than going within in order to find a peaceful resolution. It simply points out from itself and identifies the trigger. So what it does, as it transcends outside of itself, it attaches itself to the outside force that triggered it, no matter what it is or who it was, and it transforms itself. This is what the anger does. It transforms itself into the shape, into the face, etc., no matter what it was that triggered it, into the outside force that triggered it. And then what it does is it merges it back into the quality and state of being, which at the time of anger is really you. You're filled to the top with anger. And that is the merge. That's the scary shit that makes people completely lose control. That's the torturous hell of anger. That's the scary stuff. So what I want to do, now that we know that these triggers and this anger merges the way it does, I want to create the separation between the outside forces that trigger the anger and the anger itself, which is a state, which is a quality in a state of being. So I want to keep that merge from happening, and I want the triggers to, I want to put the triggers, or keep the triggers, the outside forces that trigger, in their proper place where they belong, and that's not within me. I don't want them to merge within me. I don't want the transcendence of the consciousness of anger, which is my quality and state of being at the moment, to transcend itself and transform itself into the outside force which triggered it, and then remerge and then re-merge back into the quality and the state of being, which only amplifies it and feeds the fire of anger and makes you lose complete control. And it becomes very scary if the anger is at a real high level. And that's what I want to prevent from happening. And it indeed, with the information that I have in the last 3 videos, can definitely, especially the last video, part 3, definitely it will keep that from happening. So you can literally keep the transcendence and the merge of the outside force that triggered the anger from happening. You don't want that merge to happen. You don't want the anger to transcend outside of itself and start pointing towards outside forces, transforming itself into the outside force that triggered it, and then having it merge back into the state and the quality of being angry, which is you, because that's where it gets real bad. So if you can keep that from happening, and then you can keep the outside forces that trigger anger in their proper place, and you can keep it in the proper perspective. And what happens is you can start to focus within rather than focusing your energy without, and you can work on a transformation from within. And once you start to transform yourself through this knowledge and through this inner work, then what happens is the outside forces that trigger anger, which will always be there, but instead of becoming very heavy, very daunting, very dangerous, like walking through a minefield or having bricks fall on you from the sky, they become, and this is the goal, is to make them as light as a feather. So even if there are 1,000 outside forces that are triggering all over the place, they're only as light as a feather. So if I was walking and let's say 100 feathers fell on my shoulders, I would see that I have feathers on me, but there's no weight. They don't carry any weight. There's no transcendence of the anger, of the quality and state of being angry. There's no transformation of the anger into the outside object or outside force that triggered the anger. And then there's no re-merging with the state and quality of anger of the outside force and the anger, to where you can't even distinguish between the two anymore, and they become kind of like one, and it really fires up the anger and it makes you go completely nuts. I want that from happening, and I want to work on myself about transforming myself. And once that begins to happen, the resentment that you carried begins to kind of fall away on its own without any effort on your own. It just naturally does. And the trigger, the outside forces that trigger anger, will always be there, but they will no longer be they won't carry any weight. They won't be difficult. They will be feathers. It's not going to make outside forces and triggers go away. That's part of life. But you can reduce the outside forces and triggers and make them like feathers. So you can have 100 feathers or 1,000 feathers fall on you, and it's no big deal. No big deal at all. And that comes specifically, that's the goal of these last 3 videos. And I think that is pretty clear. I hope it is. Okay, so this should be the final installment. And that's exactly what it is. To turn the outside forces that trigger anger into feathers. And to focus the attention on an inner transformation. And that will lead you to your breakthrough. And that will lead you to a place where you can peaceably resolve your anger. It's worked for me. It's a practice, so it's not like I've mastered it. But it definitely works. These 3 videos and this last video have clarified the goal. And with that said, Noah Road, over and out for now.